Hello, my friends. I'm Zion, and today I want to share one of the strangest things I've ever learned about a plant that millions of people keep inside their homes. Most people believe the snake plant is almost impossible to surprise them. It survives neglect, dry soil, low light, forgotten watering. It just keeps standing there, year after year, asking for almost nothing. But then one morning, something changes. From the center of the plant, a tall flower stalk slowly begins to rise. Tiny cream-colored flowers start opening one by one, and after sunset, they release a sweet fragrance that fills the room. If you've ever witnessed this, you already know the feeling. It almost doesn't seem real. Because here's the mystery. Many people grow a snake plant for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years and never see a single flower. So when it finally blooms, one question naturally comes to mind. Why now? Is it just luck? Is it a sign? Or is the plant trying to tell us something? The incredible part is that after spending years reading about this plant, I discovered something fascinating. Ancient spiritual traditions, modern science, even Feng Shui, all arrive at almost the same conclusion. They simply speak different languages. One talks about harmony, protection, and prosperity. Another talks about maturity, environmental signals, and reproduction. But in the end, they're describing the very same moment. And by the time we finish today, you'll never look at a snake plant the same way again. Let's begin where every mystery should begin. With the plant itself. The snake plant, also known as mother-in-law's tongue or Sansevieria, has become one of the most popular houseplants on Earth. You'll find it in offices, hotels, living rooms, bedrooms, hospitals, restaurants, almost everywhere. And that's because it's incredibly resilient. It tolerates low light. It survives irregular watering. It handles changing temperatures. It forgives beginners. In fact, if someone tells me they always kill houseplants, this is usually the first one I recommend, but that incredible toughness hides a secret. A healthy snake plant can live for decades without ever producing a flower. That's what makes blooming so extraordinary. It's not common, it's not annual. It's something that happens only when several very specific conditions come together. And that's exactly why so many cultures began paying attention to it. Long before modern gardening books existed, people noticed something curious. The healthiest homes, the calmest families, the places that seemed balanced and peaceful, were often the same places where the snake plant eventually bloomed. Was that simply coincidence? Or had generations observed a pattern that science would only explain centuries later? Let's travel back in time. Across parts of Africa, Asia, and later throughout the Americas, the snake plant was never seen as just decoration. It was considered a silent guardian. People placed it beside the front door, near entrances, or close to windows, believing its tall, sword-shaped leaves acted like invisible blades, not blades that could hurt people, but blades that cut through envy, bad intentions, and negative energy before it could enter the home. Think about its appearance for a moment. Its leaves grow perfectly upright. They rarely bend. They point confidently toward the sky. Across many cultures, vertical forms like these came to symbolize strength, discipline, protection, and stability. Even if someone doesn't believe in spiritual energy, it's easy to understand why this image became so powerful. The plant simply looks like a silent guard standing watch every hour of the day. Some families even placed a snake plant inside the main bedroom. There was an old belief that if a home was filled with arguments or constant tension, the plant could help restore peace over time. Now, whether someone believes that or not, something practical is still happening. A healthy plant makes a room feel calmer. People care for it. They notice it. They create a cleaner, brighter environment around it. That alone can influence mood, rest, and even the way people interact with each other. Sometimes ancient traditions and modern psychology describe the same reality. They simply use different words. But everything becomes even more interesting when the plant blooms, because in many African traditions, blooming was never seen as an accident. It was considered an announcement. Not that good fortune was coming, but that it had already arrived, and that changes everything. Now here's where the story becomes truly fascinating. Across several African traditions, especially in regions where the snake plant grows naturally, people believed that when this plant bloomed, it wasn't reacting only to sunlight or water. It was responding to the home itself. The bloom was seen as a message, a quiet announcement that the house had reached a rare state of balance. Some villages even treated the event like a celebration. Neighbors would come to see the flowers. Families remembered the date. Some stayed awake after sunset just to experience the sweet fragrance released during the night. To them, the bloom meant far more than successful gardening. It meant the home was protected. It meant harmony had taken root. Some elders even believed their ancestors were blessing the household, whether you believe that literally or not. It's remarkable that this belief survived for generations. Traditions don't usually last hundreds of years unless people repeatedly experience something they feel is meaningful. And similar beliefs appeared in many other places. In parts of the southern United States, especially among African American communities that preserved ancestral traditions, people began saying something very interesting. When a snake plant blooms, financial blessings are already on their way. Not someday, not eventually, already moving. Some believe the bloom appeared shortly before a promotion, a successful business opportunity, a debt finally being paid, or a difficult season coming to an end. Older gardeners have shared stories like these for decades, stories where the bloom was followed by unexpected improvements in family life. Was it coincidence? Perhaps. Was it a pattern people genuinely observed? Maybe. What's important isn't proving every story. It's understanding why so many people reached similar conclusions while living thousands of miles apart. Even several indigenous communities throughout the Americas noticed something similar after the plant arrived on the continent. They observed that snake plants seemed more likely to bloom in homes that felt peaceful, orderly, well cared for, places where life followed a steady rhythm. Some even called it the plant of upright energy. Its tall leaves symbolized honesty, strength, integrity, standing firm even during difficult times. One elder explained it beautifully. The warrior stands guard every day. When the village is finally safe, the warrior can celebrate. The flower is that celebration. I love that image because suddenly the bloom isn't just reproduction, it's a reward, a visible reminder that something invisible has been working all along. Now let's move to another ancient tradition, Feng Shui. This is where everything becomes even more interesting. In Feng Shui, the snake plant is considered a strong yang plant. Its upright leaves encourage energy to rise instead of becoming stagnant. That's why people often place it near entrances, dark corners, hallways, or places that feel heavy or lifeless. The plant is believed to help keep energy moving, but when it flowers, the meaning becomes much stronger. According to Feng Shui, the bloom suggests that positive energy has already settled into the space. The environment has reached stability. The negative energy has weakened. Good fortune has found an open path. Even the location of the bloom matters. Near the front door, it symbolizes protection and opportunity. Inside the living room, it represents family harmony. Inside the bedroom, it points toward emotional balance and peaceful relationships. Now here's the part that amazed me most. Science doesn't actually argue against any of this. In a strange way, it describes almost the same situation, just without using spiritual language. Botanically speaking, snake plants bloom only under very specific conditions. The first requirement is maturity. A young plant almost never flowers. Most snake plants need anywhere from 3 to 10 years before they're even capable of blooming, sometimes longer. Everything depends on light, root development, pot size, watering, and the overall environment. But age alone isn't enough. The second requirement surprises most people. The plant actually needs a small amount of environmental stress, not abuse, not neglect, not suffering, just enough natural challenge to trigger its reproductive cycle. Slightly crowded roots, seasonal temperature changes, longer periods between watering, changes in daylight throughout the year. These signals tell the plant something important. The conditions are changing. If you want your species to continue, now is the time. That's exactly how this plant evolved in nature. It doesn't waste energy producing flowers every year. It waits patiently. Then, when everything lines up, it makes its move. And when your own snake plant blooms inside your house, it means you've unknowingly recreated many of those same natural signals without realizing it. You've been speaking the plant's language, and that's where everything finally comes together. For years, people believed the snake plant bloomed because a home was filled with positive energy. Science says something remarkably similar. A plant spends most of its life doing one thing: surviving. Every drop of water, every ray of sunlight, every nutrient is first used to keep the plant alive. As long as it's struggling, it has no reason to spend precious energy producing flowers. Blooming is expensive. It requires enormous biological effort, so the plant waits. It keeps growing. It strengthens its roots, it stores energy. Then one day, everything feels right. The light is consistent, the watering is balanced, the roots are comfortably settled inside the pot. The seasons have changed naturally. The environment has become stable. Only then does the plant decide, "I'm ready." And that's when the flower appears. Notice how close this is to what ancient traditions have been saying all along. Spiritual teachings say the snake plant blooms when a home is filled with harmony. Feng Shui says it blooms when the flow of energy becomes balanced. Botany says it blooms when the environment becomes healthy, stable, and biologically favorable. Three completely different ways of describing the same reality. Now let's answer the question everyone asks. Can you encourage your snake plant to bloom? The answer is yes. But you can't force it. You simply create the conditions that make blooming possible. The first key is light. Snake plants love bright, indirect sunlight. They don't need harsh afternoon sun burning their leaves, but they do need several hours of good natural light every day. A spot near a bright window is usually ideal. Seasonal changes also help. More light during spring and summer, slightly less during winter. This natural rhythm tells the plant that time is moving forward. The second key is watering. This is where most people make mistakes. Too much water is far more dangerous than too little. Always allow the soil to dry completely before watering again. During hot months, that may mean every 2 or 3 weeks. During winter, perhaps once a month. Patience is part of proper care. The third key is the pot itself. Many people believe bigger is always better. Not for snake plants. They actually enjoy having slightly crowded roots. Not squeezed, not damaged, just comfortably filling the container. That gentle root pressure often becomes one of the signals that encourages flowering. The fourth key is temperature. They prefer comfortable household temperatures, but small drops during the night, especially in autumn, can help imitate the natural seasonal changes they experience in the wild. The fifth key is soil and fertilizer. Use a fast-draining soil mix. Avoid soil that stays wet for long periods. Feed lightly during spring and summer with a balanced fertilizer. Then allow the plant to rest during autumn and winter. That resting period often helps prepare the plant for its next stage. And finally, the most important secret of all: patience. You don't make a snake plant bloom overnight. You care for it. You observe it. You respect its rhythm. You give it time. Then one day, without warning, a flower stalk quietly appears from the center. Tiny blossoms begin opening. As evening arrives, the room fills with a gentle fragrance. And suddenly you understand why so many cultures consider this moment something truly special. Because it isn't just about flowers, it's about timing, it's about balance, it's about creating an environment where life no longer struggles just to survive, but finally has enough strength to create beauty. Think about that for a moment. Maybe that's why this plant fascinates so many people. It reminds us of something we often forget. Growth doesn't happen because we rush it. Growth happens when the conditions are right. Perhaps that's true for plants. Perhaps it's true for us as well. The snake plant is famous because it survives almost anything. But it doesn't bloom because it survives. It blooms because, for the first time, survival is no longer enough. It finally feels safe enough to become something even more beautiful. And honestly, I think there's a lesson there for every one of us. In a world that moves faster every year, this quiet little flower reminds us that the best things often arrive slowly. Science agrees. Ancient traditions agree. Even Feng Shui agrees. The bloom appears when the environment is finally in harmony. And if your snake plant has ever flowered, maybe that's also telling you something about the home you've created. Take good care of your plants. They always tell a story, long before we learn how to listen. I'm Zion. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next video.